What's up, everyone? Jay here from Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with another EDH deck tech in our Battling with a Budget series. Today's deck, as you can tell, is for Kytheon, Hero of Akros, for less than $50. The viewer that requested this build from us is Jack Brightwell. So Jack, this is the Kytheon Hero of Akros budget build you were looking for, so I hope you enjoy it. And everybody else watching, I hope you enjoy it as well. One thing to mention before we get into the deck tech is the price, of course, of this deck. So seeing as this is a Battling with a Budget video, we want to stay under $50. The price of this deck as it stands right now, according to TCG Player Mid, is $49.68. That's not attributing the cost of Kytheon. As a lot of you know, we don't attribute the cost of the general into the overall cost of the deck, because if you want to play that as your general, you need a copy of it. But Kytheon is not really that expensive. He's about a $5 card. According to TCG Player Mid, he's $5.08. So, you know, he's not going to break the bank to pick up a copy of him, and I'd be willing to bet that he's more than likely an easy card to pick up at your local game store or in somebody's trade binder. So, with the price of the deck out of the way, let's get into the deck tech itself. So, obviously, our general is Kytheon, Hero of Akros. He's a 1-cost, 2/1 legendary human soldier, and he has, at the end of combat, if Kytheon, Hero of Akros, and at least 2 other creatures attack this combat, exile Kytheon, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. Then he also has the very nice ability of making himself indestructible for 2 and a white. So on his front side, he's not bad. He's more or less just a 1-drop with a 2 power on his body. But when he is transformed, which is generally what we want to do with him, we're going to click to a new tab because this doesn't allow me to see the Planeswalker side of him. When we flip him, he becomes Gideon Battleforged. So he then becomes a white Planeswalker with 3 loyalty. His +2 ability is up to 1 target creature an opponent controls attacks Gideon Battleforged during its controller's next turn if able. Very, very similar to his first iteration's ability, where it forces a creature to attack him. I believe his first iteration forced all your opponent's creatures to attack him, but it's more or less kind of the same thing, just for 1 creature instead of all of them. His next ability is +1 until your next turn. Target creature gains indestructible. Untap that creature, so that's very, very nice. And then his last ability is 0 until end of turn. He becomes a 4/4 human soldier creature with indestructible that's still a planeswalker, yada, yada, yada. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to him. Me personally, if I could just get this out of the way, I would love to see them do something different with Gideon, which is why Gideon Ally of Zendikar was a pretty cool card for me to see, because, he has some, different types of abilities than all of his other iterations. Like, all of his iterations can always animate him into a guy and he smacks face, or forces creatures to attack him, or whatever. They did go a little bit different route with one of the abilities on this, where you can untap a creature and make it indestructible, but the whole, making him a guy and he's basically unkillable, they do that literally with every single iteration of him. Not that that's a bad ability, I would just like to see them do something different with it. But anyways, that's our general, Kytheon/Gideon. So that's our general. Let's take a look at the rest of the deck. First, we'll look at our land base. So we have a Drifting Meadow, an Emeria the Sky Ruin, New Benalia, 31 Plains, a Rogue's Passage, Sandstone Bridge, Secluded Steppe, and Sajiri Steppe. Seeing as this is a budget deck, we, went with a very, very budget-friendly land base. With 31 planes, we're pretty heavy on the basics, but it's a mono-white deck, so, it's going to get the job done either way. But, we got Drifting Meadow and Secluded Steppe for some cycling to draw some cards if we don't need the lands. And Emeria, a little bit pricey at $4. But, if you're playing mono white, you have to include Emeria. Plus, it's $4, but it's not going to break the bank. We got New Benalia to scry, and then this to make guys unblockable. This gives a guy +1/+1 in Vigilance when it comes into play. Sajiri Steppe gives a guy protection from a color. So, we got some nice little utility lands there as well. Next, we'll look at the artifacts that we run. Let's scroll up here. We run Argentum Armor. The +6/+6 on a body's nice, but we like the fact that whenever the equipped creature attacks, we can destroy any permanent, so that's why that's there. Armillary Sphere to ramp our mana a little bit. Loxodon Warhammer. We do run a lot of equipments in this deck, and as you'll see in the creature base, the deck's basically Soldier Tribal. It kind of just worked out that way. I didn't plan it out that way before I brainstormed the deck, but it kind of just worked out that way. So it's more or less Soldier Tribal, but I felt like, this deck, we want to be aggressive, so, I put in quite a few equipments into the deck to kind of like beef up our soldiers. So we have the Warhammer to give a guy +3/+0 trample and lifelink, Moonsilver Spear to give the equipped creature first strike, and when it attacks, we get a 4/4 white flying angel, so that's pretty cool. Shield of the Avatar, because I think it's very flavorful for the deck. Excuse me. If a sorcerer deal damage to equipped creature, prevent X of that damage, where X is the number of creatures you control, and it's 2 to equip. So it's a pretty cheap equipment and easy to equip, and I just think it was very flavorful for the deck. Spear of Heliod is basically a glorious anthem with an added bonus of being able to pay 1 and 2 white and tap it to destroy a creature that dealt damage to you this turn. Swiftfoot Boots is a very, very budget-friendly version of Lightning Greaves. In a way, it's kind of better where, the equipped creature gets hexproof instead of Shroud, but, we lose that 0 equip cost. But, it's a budget man's Lightning Greaves, and it gets the job done. Then we have Sword of the Animist, gives the equipped guy +1/+1, and when that guy attacks, we can search for a basic and put it onto the board tap, so another way to ramp our mana a little bit. Sword of the Perunes, as long as equipped creature is tapped, tap creatures you control get +2/+0. As long as the equipped creature is untapped, untapped creatures you control get +0/+2. Then we can pay 3 to tap or untap the equipped creature. Then we have Sword of Vengeance to give the equipped creature +2/+0 and basically make it in a Chroma Angel of Wrath, just minus the protection from black and red. So we get first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste. Next up, we'll look at our sorceries that we run. We run a Conqueror's Pledge to get 6 1/1 soldiers onto the board. And then if we kick it for 6 mana, we get 12 of those tokens instead. Apologies for the slow rendering on the card images here, but here's Gift of Estates. Basically just a way to ramp our mana a little bit, so if an opponent controls more lands than us, we can play this and search for 3 plains cards, reveal them, and put them in our hand. Then we have Martial Coup, because it's a wrath effect for us if we dump 5 or more into the X cost, and we get that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. So we can either use this to just generate us some soldier tokens if we dump less than 5 into it, but if we dump 5 or more, not only do we get those tokens, it destroys all other creatures. Then we run Mass Calcify because we're running a mono white deck, so it just makes sense to run a sweeper that destroys everything that's not ours, or anyway, anything that's not white. So if your opponent's playing white too, it's not going to kill any of their stuff, but Mass Calcify just is a shoe-in for a mono white deck. And then Nomad's Assembly gets us a 1/1 white core soldier creature token onto the board for each creature we control, and it has rebound, so we can essentially get 2 uses out of it. Next, we'll look at the enchantments that we run. Banishing Light, just to exile a non-land permanent. If we're having trouble dealing with something our opponent has on the board, we can use this to get rid of it until they get rid of this. Field of Souls, whenever one of our non-token dudes dies, we get a 1/1 white flying spirit to replace it. Mobilization gives our soldiers vigilance and lets us generate soldier tokens for 2 and a white. Oblivion Ring is basically the same thing as Banishing Light. Quest for the Holy Relic is pretty cool. So when we play this, whenever we cast a creature spell, we can put a quest counter on this, and then we can remove 5 quest counters from this and sacrifice it, and then we can search for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, and immediately attach it to any creature we control. So that's pretty cool. Sigil of the New Dawn is a nice little recursion enchantment. When one of our dudes dies, we can pay 1 and a white, and if we do, it goes back to our hand instead of to our graveyard. Here's Spirit Bonds. Whenever a non-token creature comes into play under our control, we can pay 1 white. If we do, we get a 1/1 white flying spirit, and then we can pay 1 and a white and sacrifice a spirit to give a non-spirit creature indestructible until end of turn. So that's really nice. And True Conviction, because why not give our team double strike and lifelink? At $1.20, this is just a shoe-in for any white deck. And now we'll look at our instance. We run Condemn, Crib Swap, Devouring Light. Really, apologies on the slow rendering here. I don't know what's going on, but apologies for that again. Return to Dust, Scour from Existence, and Shining Shoal. More or less just like spot removal cards for us here. Condemn, Crib Swap, Devouring Light, Return to Dust will get rid of artifacts and enchantments. Scour from Existence is colorless, and it'll exile any permanent. And then Shining Shoal, because we can exile a white card with converted mana cost X from our hand rather than paying this card's cost. And then we can prevent the next X damage that would be dealt to us or a creature we control, and it gets shot to any target creature or player instead. And then lastly, we'll look at our creature base. Pretty heavy on the creatures. We run 32, but we want to be aggressive, so we want to run a lot of creatures. So first we have Aegis of the Gods. It's a 2-cost, 2/1 soldier that gives you hexproof, so you can't be targeted by your opponents. Then we run Anafenza, Kintree Spirit, 2-cost, 2/2. Whenever another non-token creature comes into play under our control, we can bolster 1. Angel of Serenity, a 5/6 flyer, where when it comes in, we can exile 3 other creatures from the battlefield or creatures from graveyards, and then when this leaves play, those cards go back to their owner's hand. Angelic Field Marshal is a 3/3 flyer with Lieutenant, so as long as we control our commander, this gets +2/+2, and creatures you control have Vigilance, so that's pretty cool. Angelic Overseer is a 5-cost, 5/3 flyer. As long as we control a human, this gets hexproof and indestructible. Well, guess what? A lot of I'd say probably 90% of our creatures are humans. So more than likely, when we have this on the board, it's going to get that hexproof and indestructible. Archetype of Courage gives our team first strike and strips first strike from our opponent's team, and they can't gain first strike. We have Avacyn Guardian Angel, a 5-cost, 5/4 flyer with Vigilance, where we can pay 2 and prevent all damage that would be dealt to another target creature this turn by sources of the color of your choice. Then we can pay 7 and basically do the same thing, except we can target a player. Ballyrush Banneret is a 2-cost, 2/1 that lowers the casting cost of your Kytheon and Soldier spells by 1. Burnished Heart is there to ramp our mana a little bit. Captain of the Watch, a 6-cost 3/3 with Vigilance, pumps our other soldiers +1/+1 and gives them Vigilance, and when it comes in, it brings 3 1/1 white soldiers. Consul's Lieutenant is a 2-cost 2/1 with First Strike and Renown 1, so when it hits a player, it becomes Renowned and it gains an amount of +1/+1 counters equal to the Renown number, so this would get 1 +1/+1 counter. And when this attacks, if it's Renowned, other attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, so that's pretty cool. Then we have Court Street Denizen, a 3-cost 2/2. Whenever another white creature enters the battlefield under our control, we can tap target creature and opponent control, so that's pretty cool. Next up we have Emeria Shepherd, a 7-cost 4/4 flyer with landfall. I love this card. It's a new card from Battle for Zendikar, and I feel like if you're playing white in an EDH deck, you definitely should play this card. I really like it a lot. So when you landfall, you can take a non-land permanent card from your graveyard back to your hand. If you landfall with a plains, that card goes right back to the board. So either way, you're recurring something from your graveyard, and if it happens to be a plains that you landfall with, that permanent goes right back onto the board. Enlistment Officer, a 4-cost 2/3 with first strike. When he comes in, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all soldier cards revealed this way in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. Once I started realizing I was basically building this as soldier tribal, I included this guy because why not? He's basically like a goblin ringleader for soldiers. Evangel of Heliod is a 6-cost 1/3. When he comes in, you get a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to white. So if you have 10 white mana symbols on all the stuff you have on the board, this guy's going to bring 10 tokens with him, so he's pretty cool. Herald of War, 5-cost 3/3 flyer. When it attacks, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And angel spells and human spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on it. So we do run a lot of humans and a pretty decent amount of angels in the deck, so this was just a shoe-in. Not only does it make itself bigger, but it lowers the casting cost of basically everything in our deck. Next we have Hixus Prison Warden. We're going to scroll down a bit here. A 5-cost 4/4 with flash, so we can cast him anytime we could cast an instant. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, if Hixus Prison Warden entered the battlefield this turn, exile that creature until he leaves the battlefield. So he's kind of like an Oblivion Ring for creatures if they hit you. So like if your opponent, swings in with 3 guys and all 3 of those guys hit you, if you flash Hixus in, after they deal damage, they'll get exiled until he leaves the board. So he's kind of like an Oblivion Ring, sort of, for creatures if they hit you. Next we have Intrepid Hero, 3-cost 1/1, where you can tap him to destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, which is really nice to have because, in EDH, you're probably going to see a lot of big splashy creature spells that have 4 or greater power. So this guy just takes them out simply by turning sideways. We have Knight Captain of Eos, 5-cost 2/2. When he comes in, he brings 2 1/1 white soldiers. And then we can pay a white and sacrifice a soldier to Fog. Knight of the White Orchid, a 2-cost 2/2 with first strike. When he comes in, if an opponent controls more lands than us, we can search for a plains and put it onto the battlefield. Then we have Kytheon's Irregulars because the deck is built around Kytheon, so we have to have his Irregulars, right? Right. But it's a 4-cost 4/3 with Renown 1, and we can pay 2 white to tap target creature, so that's not bad. Scroll down a bit here. Loxodon Gatekeeper's up next, a 4-cost 2/3 that makes it so that artifacts, creatures, and lands your opponents control come into play tapped, which is a pretty powerful ability. So it slows your opponent's stuff down, basically. Mentor of the Meek is an all-star in the deck, just pure card advantage for us. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under our control, we can pay 1 if we do draw a card. A lot of our creatures, the soldiers and whatnot, we can generate tokens. Those are more than likely going to have 2 or less power, so this guy will draw us a lot of cards, granted that we have that 1 mana to invest into the creature coming in to draw that card. Audric Master Tactician, 4-cost 3/4 with first strike. When he and at least 3 other creatures attack, we basically get to control the combat phase. So when we trigger that, we choose what creatures block this combat and how they block. So, you could be like, well, you're not blocking and you're going to take all the damage. Or you're going to use this guy that you're just, keeping back and he's doing something static for you. He's going to block this guy so he'll die and blah, blah, blah. So you basically get to control the combat phase on your turn. So that's pretty cool. Pilgrim's Eye is a 1/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, we can search for a basic and put it into our hand. So just another way to ramp our mana a little bit. Precinct Captain, a 2-cost 2/2 with first strike. When he hits a player, we get a 1/1 white soldier token. Preeminent Captain is a 3-cost 2/2 with first strike. And when he attacks, we can put a soldier creature card from our hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Then we have Relic Seeker. Again, excuse the really slow rendering on the card images. A 2-cost 2/2, I believe, with Renown 1. And when he becomes Renowned, we can search our library for an equipment and put it into our hand and then shuffle our library. Then we have Sentinel of the Eternal Watch. It's a 6-cost. I want to say it's a 5/4 because the card image is taken friggin' forever. Sorry, a 6-cost 4/6 with Vigilance. At the beginning of combat on each opponent's turn, tap target creature that player controls. So this is a really nice card. I like it a lot. So, if they have some huge menacing creature, maybe they have like an Ulamog or something, and they go to their combat phase, and you can be like, oh, well, I'll tap your Ulamog down so you don't annihilate me, or, if they're playing Ulamog 2.0, you don't mill, a quarter of my deck. So, it's a pretty cool card. Then we have Sun Titan, 6-cost 6/6 with Vigilance. When he enters or attacks, we can resurrect a permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard right back to the battlefield. Victory's Herald is a 6-cost. 6-cost 4/4 flyer. When it attacks, attacking creatures gain flying and lifelink until end of turn. So that's very nice. That could potentially end a game for you, given your entire team flying. And then lastly, we have War Oracle, a 4-cost 3/3 with lifelink and Renown 1. Not a soldier, but it can become a 4/4 and gain you some life, so it's not bad. So that about wraps up the deck tech, guys. So Jack, I hope you enjoyed it, seeing as you requested this from us. So I hope you enjoyed the deck tech. I hope you take some inspiration from it if you're still looking to build a budget Kytheon EDH deck. Everybody else that watched the video, I hope you enjoyed it as well. Just a couple of other things to talk about before I end the video. Not much to talk about here because the deck's mono white. The types of cards, obviously a third of our deck's going to be lands. We run 38. Then we have a very hefty portion of it as creatures at 32. Then we run 10 artifacts, 8 enchantments, 5 sorceries, and 6 instants. Our mana curve is definitely not bad. Got a couple things to play on turn 1. Then we get a lot to play on turn 2 and 3. And then we curve down from 4 to 5. And then we kind of spike up a little bit at 6, but then we curve down from there. So it's a little wonky right here where we curve down, then back up, then down again. But it's overall, a pretty low mana curve deck. You could probably play, more than one spell a turn consistently by like turn 4 or 5. And then the average converted mana cost for the deck, according to this, is 3.70. So, again, not too bad. And then the types of tokens we can generate 1/1 Spirits, 4/4 Angels, 1/1 Core Soldiers, 1/1 Soldiers, and 1/1 Shapeshifters. Okay. But that about wraps up the deck. So, again, hope everybody enjoyed the video. Leave me some comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of the deck. If there are any cards that you would include that you would include in a budget Kytheon build, maybe I missed the ball on some flavorful cards that you think would go well into the deck, let me know in the comment section. Thumbs up the video if you did enjoy it, so that we know to keep making videos like this in the future. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, Tap and Turn Gaming, please hit that subscribe button. Derek and I really do appreciate it. But this has been Jay with Tap and Turn Gaming. Again, hope everybody enjoyed watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you later. Thanks a lot for watching.